Hello, it's Thursday on Your View. Welcome to the show. I am Morayo Afolabi Brown. And without, every day I have the ladies with me. Hello, ladies.
Hi, Mariah.
This your shine top is so nice.
Blingy,
I love it. It's beautiful. Look at a nice party top.
It's Thursday.
Yeah. What's up? How you doing?
Party Thursday. Yeah. Weekend. I'm good. I wasn't feeling too good this morning. I had a lot to do yesterday. I worked till midnight and I had to be on the show. So when I woke up this morning, I was just telling myself, Auntie, don't drive. Just get an Uber.
Right.
And that's exactly what I did. But I wanted to talk about, there's this junction when you're coming from, it's like a T junction in my area when you're coming from Agidimbi on one side, coming from Agege on the other side, and coming from Ogba. That middle, we usually don't have last mile officials there in the morning, and it's very, very dangerous. We see them from...
I think we should find out the name of the
yes, it's Akmen Road.
Yeah,
so we need, we need a last mile official early in the morning because all those road commuters are they speed and they don't want to, give space for the other. Yeah, you know that place. It's very...
They ought to be there from 6. The new executive bill the governor signed the second day of office said that we should have 2 shifts of last mile officials. Yeah. They should resume from 6
a.m.
So, yes.
Yeah,
so
I don't see them there.
Nima knows what they are.
Nima, that's why I'm saying it on the show. So
just tell her.
It's Akmen Road. It's Akmen Road.
She'll send somebody there. Sharp. If you need a last mile in your house right now,
I'm telling you,
guys. Can embarrass someone. The relationship became necessary because of what I go through.
Yes, now.
So I cannot have the agency.
We must all ride on that relationship.
I'm telling you.
We can't all be calling the man and let us go through you.
I can even walk down there and make a report. They were not there. I have video evidence.
Oh, God.
The guy was okay, just let us attend to this, madam. And then I see that things are done.
How you doing, Nima? How was traffic today?
Hey, I bashed my car, trying to bypass that traffic, that bad road. But when I got there, I don't know the miracle that happened. They had cleared it.
Wow.
So I did one way and went back to the other side of the road. And
drove
to
one
get
way?
there, yeah, I did.
That area?
There, one way is legal.
One way is allowed.
So to get there, although you have last mile there picking people, but they know they will not be picking troublemakers like me who will say, why are you not where you're supposed to be? So I did that, and there was a ditch. That bus stop called the Lake, opposite mobile filling station, and this major ditch. I just fell into it and I heard boom. My car was making a terrible sound. I just expended 50,000 fixing that car. The car is costing me.
Right.
That's the story of our life.
Story of our life.
Story of our life. I walked down from motorways. Nearly I dropped off my kids and I saw the traffic. I just parked at motorways and crossed over, walked down to the office. Necessary exercise, whether I wanted it or not.
But so there's nothing we can do.
But the one that I wanted to talk about was the fact that our president still hasn't reappointed anybody or officially given us any minister or we don't have fake meeting because we don't have a minister, we don't have an executive, we have enough crisis in this country.
The offices that doesn't need Senate approval, the SGS,
so
the special
no appointment has been done so far in this administration. Punch has highlighted consistently the rot in education and the health sector. Our president cannot claim to be unaware that these people, these ministers that he kept in power for almost 4 years, had issues. So is he going to just reappoint them because he already gave them a certificate that they did well? But I'm saying, from my own perspective of the health and education sector, the ministers do a whole lot more. And so once we are waiting for the list.
Who is appointing in the Skiji cabinet? Because we had Abakari, we had Mustafa,
and they are still working.
Still there. So it would be nice to have the change, but we're waiting for him to give us
have they been given the letter?
To do
what?
We're on our way.
That's what I'm asking.
That's my banter for
we're going to have new people.
Just to ask the president.
You'll be all right,
please leave our president. Let me greet our first lady. How are you doing, Madam First Lady? How do you like the new office of being a first lady?
The budget never changed all through the 4 years, Morayo.
So she still got the budget?
The budget that Patience Jonathan got was the same budget that she got, even though she wasn't called first lady. She was still getting the allocation. She still had the assistants. She still had the office. Everything. So it was just the nomenclature.
Title.
And she got back the, let's go.
If I swear for lawmakers now, they'll say Nima has come. That office is not created by law.
But there's a budget.
It doesn't exist and it has a budget.
And
we are trying to cut down costs.
Should our First Lady be walking around without any aids? no assistance. Of
because
course
she's
not.
a
It's
special
impossible.
human
Let's not
being.
act as if.
What are they
Did she have
assisting
a
her
life
with?
before her husband became
Yeah, but I'm saying
Exactly.
though, if you had that easy access to the first lady, don't you think that that would be they would
Don't
make
defend
her?
what is indefensible. I
Honestly,
think there should
just
be
leave it.
there should be if you don't make it formal, then anything can happen. Right now, what is being done is just
first lady
Where there's no law, there's no
Let's
sin.
Thursday, please leave the woman
We'll be
alone.
right back.
Yes, we have plenty gist.
When we come back, we'll breeze through the front pages of the newspapers. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back.
First lady is not me, it's them.
Try to
Yeah, I want to be first
disclaimer.
lady. Okay, The Nation. Southwest governors get wake-up call on security. Buhari end violence in Taraba. Police insist that Nigeria is safe. We made 200 million naira from kidnapping. No? NCC reports NCAA to answer over threat to demolish telecoms towers. And there's a special inside story about injected to blindness, harrowing tale of 10 eye center patients. Very interesting article. State chairmen restate support for Oshomole. 3 held as ex-minister Adewale's son is freed. No Ebola case in Nigeria, says government, and Kola Abiola got it wrong on Tinubu. Let's start with this major headline. Southwest governors get wake-up call on security, and the police are saying that Nigeria is safe. Who has that story?
So the Southwest governors met in Enugu at a supposed economic
And they met at the meeting today.
no, they
Today and
gathered
tomorrow, 2
already,
days.
and security was the first issue. They will be discussing economy of the Southwest area tomorrow, or today, so that's today, that was yesterday. They met for security, and they had their issues. They were briefed by the police, the IG, and on the issues of security and how they're combating it in the country. But there's this beautiful quote Moriah was interested in by the PRO of the police, Mr. Ambas.
Wait, before you go to the quote, what happened was that there was a report from the Foreign and Commonwealth Office saying that foreigners should avoid going to 24 states.
Yes.
They mentioned the states yesterday, I think 2 days ago.
Yes.
So it was there. So he was responding to that report. Go ahead.
He said, admitting that the country was facing some security challenges. The police stated that Nigeria is one of the most beautiful places in the world to live in.
Wow.
And that's from the police PRO, Mr. Frank Kumba.
And it is safe. Oh, you forgot that part. Like, it is a very safe place to live in.
Interesting.
Yes, we may have our socio-economic issues, but Nigeria is safe. And we're wondering, is it the same Nigeria we're talking about?
Please, why
It's
do
the
we
same
always
one.
have to respond when, you know, somebody comes up to say this is what we have noticed, this
And then we just
from
refute it.
investigations, and the next thing is to fight back and respond when we are not even working towards changing the narrative.
So you tell that to the woman whose son was taken by SARS, another that his son was kidnapped. Tell that to the ex-minister's son who was recently kidnapped. Tell that to those who are cancelling their weddings or their parties just because they cannot go through that Ondo-Akure road. I mean, so when you
It's
say Nigeria
obvious.
is safe,
It's obvious. But Nigeria is safe from Ebola. That one we know
Yes.
now, because there was a news going around that there was one person who has Ebola, and that the minister has said that nobody in Nigeria has Ebola. We are on high alert, and that there were people that the borders are being protected. That is what the paper said.
Borders that are porous have been protected.
I don't know.
No. It's you
Talk
can only
if
fly
we
in
still
because
have
it's coming from-
insecurity in Nigeria now, we're just a risk away from Ebola.
Ebola.
Yeah.
This
Uganda.
landed
Papa said they have
borders.
200 million naira. Who has that
Yes,
story?
the kidnapper, his name is Abubakar Umar, and he was apprehended. He said that he works just around KB State, Niger and KB State, and they've gotten over 200 million from kidnapping expatriates. Now, how the
6
police
months.
how the police was able to get him was the fact that they had about 28 trucks that were delivering food to grains and beans to bandits and kidnapping dens. So they were able to get those trucks, and they said that one of the things they are using to get them is to find a way to smoke them out. So if they can stop the food supplies getting to them, they'll be able to smoke them out.
Let's move on to the punch. We have to run very quickly. Boko Haram resurgence. PDP set up CDHR attack Boratai for blaming soldiers. Visa-seeking banker accuses SARS of extortion and detention in Lagos. 3 arrested as abducted ex-minister's son regains freedom. You have no right to license preachers, court tells Kaduna. Obasanjo should tell Nigerians why he shunned democracy day, says presidency. And economy is still fragile, man tells Buhari. Lots of stories here.
So,
Let's start with the
Dayo.
visa
Oh, I want to take the story of the former son, the son of the former Minister of Health, Dayo Adewole, who was kidnapped, but within 24 hours has been released. And the police said that they have 3 likely suspects already in custody. We're happy for the swiftness and we're happy for Dayo's family. He's a farmer and he was kidnapped within his farm. And they were able to alert the hunters, because they were local hunters that first went in the search of this man. So
let's talk about this issue of this visa seeker, because this young man came in from Odon, I believe.
Yes.
And he came for an American visa appointment. And he was accosted by SARS officials, according to him. And they took him away, and they were trying to get 200,000 naira from him. Eventually, he was able to squeeze out 35,000 naira for them. And they made him transfer. And then, obviously, he still made the appointment. But eventually, the issue now is that he wrote to the SARS, to police, and they tried to investigate to see if they can trace it. But all he has is the account number he paid the money, and it was a woman's account, so maybe somebody's wife or something. But now he's hitting a roadblock because they're not able to pull through with the investigation because they don't have enough
unwillingness to pull through. So usually pick the woman whose transactions who has been in use of your account or card.
Sending you money.
It's traceable. You see, this is the easiest crime to solve. Payment by bank account is very traceable. Unwillingness to do this.
So the point for me was the fact that he was innocent. He did nothing wrong. He wasn't driving. He wasn't. They didn't catch him doing anything. He just came down from a keke napep when they picked him up, and
he had nothing on him.
He had nothing on him, and these men are just going to go scot-free.
Sorry to take you back to the story Tokwe just took. The hunters joined in the search on the instruction of the Oniroko of Iroko, Oba Olasukomi Abioye Okpeola. The hunters went into the forest and combed the forest, and they were able to find the son of the former Minister of Health. What I'm just trying to point here is that not state policing. Local intelligence is extremely important in this because these people know their terrain. If we continue to have kidnapping as it is along the southwest states, and we do not involve these local heads, chiefs in combating this crime, we are going to remain where we are for a long time.
I think we tried to highlight that when we were having that discussion recently.
On security.
Okay, moving on to The Guardian. Court nullifies Kaduna's bill to regulate pastors. Don't panic, but Ebola-free FG assures Nigerians. How herbalists defrauded Korean national of 30 million naira by witness. INEC commissioners differ on ways to improve nation's electoral process. And I will lead a rubber stamp parliament, says Lawan. Let's talk about the major headline, Kaduna.
So the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria took the case to court since 2016 concerning the bill in Kaduna, which we discussed last week, about curbing religion, all the religion, regulating religion. And they've gotten the High Court to strike out Section 6 and Section 9 of the bill, saying that it violates the constitutional rights of the applicants, that's the Pentecostal Federation of Nigeria, and that the Pentecostal Federation said that they are okay with this judgment, being that every Christian has a right to preach the gospel, and so you cannot start licensing.
Section 6 of the Constitution is talking about licensing them to preach, and they are saying that on licensing, it infringes on their right to freedom of expression as ordained by the Bible, and that right is what was debated there. So they should be allowed to express their religion.
This law has good side and bad side. So
I'm taking us somewhere to that.
They are going on appeal. I'd like to see
and
it
I know
all the way
that.
to this.
I remember when I took that stand that it was against the Constitution of Nigeria. Nima came after me, but so I should be a lawyer, really.
But so Obiadulu, calm down. You don't talk to lawyers until you have a Supreme Court judgment.
There's an issue of licensing and there's an issue of regulation. So they are okay with the regulating of the activities, all these noise, but the actual licensing, that can be done. But Nima was taking us somewhere. Do you want to go there?
Supreme Court judgment.
Let's go to Supreme Court judgment. Okay, moving on to, I wanted to take a story. INEC, okay, I'll take that in Vanguard. Let's move on. Ebola, we're taking that story?
Yes, we have.
Ebola. We don't have Ebola right now.
Daily Sun, APC chiefs fight dirty. June 12, explain your absence, presidency tells Obasanjo. NNPC to resume oil search in Lake Chad Basin. Insecurity, Southeast governors, IGP meet. No Ebola outbreak. Okay, so let's talk about Obasanjo for a second. Go ahead.
Yes, so the presidency yesterday asked the former president to come out and tell Nigerians why he was absent at the June 12th, a new democracy day, maiden democracy day, that he shouldn't say he wasn't informed. A letter was sent to him, to his aide on the 16th of May, and they wrote out his address at Ota, where his personal secretary, who's been working with him all these years, received and, you know, acknowledged that he receipt of the letters and the invitation cards.
Baba,
so he should come out and tell
us
us why he decided not to show up.
Okay, Baba, just before you do your reply, let me just take appoint myself as your spokesperson. This is not the next line of action. Please appoint your ministers, kitchen cabinet, and let this country start to run. We are tired of waiting. This is the second time.
No, he's speaking.
These are irrelevant issues. He attended, did not attend. We have done June 12th, it has passed. What is this? Why are they joining issues? Whoever wrote this on behalf of the president is a time waster.
Oh,
an idle person.
I'm just giving you the name.
We should be talking about serious issues. Apart we are there, we are suffering. We have serious issues on us. The Banditry Expressway is in chaos. People are dying. And you're telling me whether Baba attended June 12th or not.
You know, in fairness,
I agree with him.
I find over my sister. Moving on to Vanguard. Let me see one story caught my attention. Kidnappers on rampage. That's the real story. Kidnappers are seriously on rampage across the country. Thugs invade hotel, beat up Oshomele's brother. Mayhem in Ajah or Jota, one killed, scores injured as police arrest 6. And we may register 200 political parties by for 2023 elections, says INEC. And they're saying that unless the exit laws, the electoral laws are adjusted, we may have to have up 200 various parties applying, because right now, according to them, they have lots of people applying to have presidential candidates on their parties for 2023. So if we don't have those exit laws reviewed, we're stuck with 200 parties.
So the presidency has a right. The electoral bill that wasn't assented to is still there now, and it can be. There's nothing stopping him from doing it.
So thank God we have one house.
His excuse before was that the timing was not enough. If he assents to it now, they won't have enough time to prepare.
So that's the first start. We're asking for Bajabiamila and
so we have one
his
house.
colleague Lawa
and it should be speeded
to push to ensure that is reviewed. Unfortunately, that's all we can take on front page review. When we return, it's Thursday. We're gisting all the way. Stay with us. But I think today we have some serious. There's no marriage and family and women issues. It's a serious topic. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So it's known that universities churn out huge numbers of graduates, but our economy is short of employment for them, and there are less and less jobs available. So the question is, who should be helping our graduates get employments? How do we make them employable? The government, the university, or the individual? Joining us on the show is Africa Strategy Advisor, Lancaster University, UK, Dr. Akanimo Odon. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you very much for having me.
You can call us on 070-8066-8014. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag YourViewTVC so we can read your tweets. So this week, and I think for the past couple of weeks, we've read lots of reports from various newspapers about our educational sector, dilapidating buildings, infrastructural issues, the fact that graduates are churned out every single year. I mean, this is the graduation season. A new batch is coming out. And we don't understand how we can make sure they're employable or how they can even become effective in the society. So in your own experience, what's the first step in helping these graduates become employable? So
I'll answer the question in a different way. Okay. So fundamentally, when you say unemployment or lack of employment, I think basically it's supposed to be the function of government. And so fundamental, like economic status or health of a country is measured by a series of indicators. You hear GDP, gross domestic product. Unemployment, employability is actually one of those kind of indices. So, but the point is, the government can, even if the government creates employment, there are two different things between employment and employability. And so you hear government in political campaigns say, we're going to create 1,000 jobs. They're creating space for more jobs. But the point is, what is the difference? Or what is the point if you're creating jobs and there are no individuals that can do those jobs? And for some reason, they never talk about developing capacity for employability, and that's because they kind of distracted from the fact that it's probably the responsibility of universities. Now, if that is the case, if there is a gap between universities and industry where these graduates at the end of the day will actually work in, then it's actually a disjointed system. I think for me, the responsibility of employment is actually everybody's responsibility, the government, the civil societies, the universities. But in an era like we are, where nothing seems to work in that case, where you're saying they churn out graduates all the time, I've come to the premise, and to be honest, that you have to grab your career bulls by the horns. Because if nobody's going to help you, you better help yourself. So I think there are fundamental models and ways where an individual or graduate can actually create a career pathway and progression for themselves. And simple things like creating your CV. Most students never think about CVs until they've left university. I was in a session one day and I was asking a class of 200 students, these are final year students, how many of you have a CV? And they're wondering, well, why are you asking us for a CV? We are still in school. Now, the worst time to write a CV is actually when you're looking for a job. Because when you write your CV, before you actually look for a job, it does two things. It creates a base for you to understand your current state. Imagine you're writing your CV and you get halfway in the page and you are hooked. It means you know, therefore, if you finish university and you begin to write your CV, if you get half of a page, you will be hooked. So it means you have at least some space to develop content to populate your CV. And interestingly, every element of a CV can be populated while you are in university. Now, I believe strongly it is better to have a 2-page CV that has been condensed from a 10-page content than to have a 2-page CV that has been expanded from a half-page content. You know those tricks that they use to increase font size and line spacing, even after all of that is still about half a page, and they're wondering, what do I do? And I've been reviewing CVs for the last 10 years. I've reviewed an excess of 1,000 CVs. The average number of pages of a graduate CV is about 2 pages. When you see a graduate as a 3-page CV, it's a genius graduate. Now, but the point is, why would you have to do that? If you break it down, say, personal details, education, probably only your WAEC and maybe secondary school certificate. Okay, hobbies, okay, I play football, that. What have you got? Now, what are the fundamental dimensions of a CV? Work experience. People will tell you, well, one of the biggest issues employers face is the fact that when students leave universities, they have to be retrained. Which employer has the time to want to retrain somebody who has just been trained? So it means, therefore, you have to put yourself in a position where you are ready to progress into employment. An example.
You've mentioned, I have like 1,000 questions from everything you've said, but I want us to go back a bit to what the government should be doing right now. What I hear you say is that there's a communication gap between the industries and the government. Now, how do we bridge that gap? What are some of the steps that the government should be taking in liaising with the industries that you're churning out these graduates to?
You see, interestingly, you discover something. It almost looks as if they're disjuncted, but they actually like each other. And the simple premise is that I always ask people, when you find or you ask the average professor, at what point in your career do you feel most fulfilled? They will tell you, well, when I made a consultant to an industry. He kind of likes the industry. He operates in the bubble. And conversely, if you ask a CEO of a company, when you feel most honored in your role as a CEO of an industry, he tells you, well, when I was issued a honorary doctorate degree. So these guys want to play in each other's circles. So when government says we have power, academia says we have knowledge, industry says we have money. Now, these guys operate in different bubbles. Now, interestingly, the government should drive the conversation for these folks to play together. And I'll give a simple example. Imagine TET Fund, okay, which is like the official government agency that gives grants to Nigerian universities, told you from tomorrow that to be able to apply for a grant as a university, you need to have an industry partner. What do you think would happen by policy?
Everybody will start talking.
Imagine tomorrow, the Nigerian government, Ministry of Education, brought a new policy saying, oh, by the way, as a basis for promotion in universities, you have to show the basis or evidence of the impact of your research in industry. What do you think would happen? You see professors begin to dress in nice suits because they have to now engage with industry to be able to get access to what they need to get to be able to get promoted in that. So my point is the government is in the driving seat. And for me, it's
we're driving, so now we're talking to so many things, and I want us to put everything in perspective. So because initially I was going to ask you, saying that, listen, our government has already failed, can we just work outside the government? But what you're saying, no, we actually can't. We need the government that have the power to work with these industries. But now they're not talking. What can we do to get them to understand the value that they have? Because the government doesn't understand this value, that I can actually partner with X university, with this industry to get employable graduates. They don't understand that. How can we bring them to the table to talk?
So I think, Mona, let me quickly add to that. I actually think they have been doing that. So an industry, for instance, donates an auditorium to a university, it gets tax waivers. So I think government is already on that part, maybe they're not doing enough of that, or do you?
So I think you're very correct. I think it's actually creating a right environment for them to work together. So an example is this, and it has to be driven by policy, because don't forget, every university reports to government, no matter who you are. Every industry registered in government, no matter who you are.
So that's a middle ground.
So there's a middle ground. So government is actually in the driving seat for this to actually happen. You see, but the point is, nobody would engage with you until there's a base for engagement. And the second flip is the fact that actually in several cases, maybe the government doesn't actually know what they're supposed to be doing. Let me explain what I mean. Now you go to average university, and what you find out, you have like a bank branch in the university, and I've done this research, and I've discovered, you ask vice chancellors, how long has this bank been in your branch? And they tell you, well, it's been there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 years. And you're asking, well, if the bank has been there, have you had a moment where you've had a conversation with the bank? And this is even an area where there is actually a communication by physical location of the bank. But they don't even talk together, because they don't understand, how do I engage a bank? Let me give an example. The average industry person, so I'm talking about models of engagement, because the issue is not the fact that they don't like each other or want to work together. They don't understand models of engagement. So an example is this. Colocation is a model, for example. In Lancaster, where I work, there's the environmental department, which is the university department, has about 24 environmental companies resident in the department. It's called colocation. That's because the premise is there is no way the CEO of a company and the professor will enter the same lift every day that they won't at some point turn to each other and say, but what do you do? And so by co-locating them, you almost force a conversation. Another model is student projects. The average student projects in Nigerian universities is a student just waits and wait a minute at the end of, okay, I'll go and serve coffee and tea. That's not projects. Imagine you actually ask these companies, what problems or issues do you have? They write into a proposal, and you advertise those proposals for students to bid for it as their student projects. Master's dissertation.
Let me go on a break. Oh, sugar. You know, I don't think our viewers are getting this meeting. It's important that we make sure you understand what we're trying to say. Yes, stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So we've been getting lots of meat from Dr. Akanimo, and it's important that I get our viewers to understand. So what he has told us so far, just so that you're clear, we are hearing that Dangote wants to build refineries, right? Sometime in Lekki, we're somewhere in Lekki. What he's saying, that a Dangote group, for example, should be partnered with a university and with the federal government. There's this tripartite agreement such that a Dangote knows that I need X amount of engineers that's going to function. Now, maybe in the interim, you hire expatriates who will come in. But the university begins to now train and get students to prepare for that employability in that Dangote refinery. Wow. So when Dangote finally employs those students, the experts can now leave, and then they can earn the kind of salary that they should earn. Because now there's a partnership between the university and the industry plus the federal government.
Yes.
So that's what he says about. Because so if you're a young person out there and you're complaining that they're paying you only 30,000 naira a month, or it's because the employer was not purposeful in creating that employment in the first place. He just brought you on to come and do the job. But if he had partnered with the university or something, he would have known that he's getting experts who would then be paid for that value. Is that correct?
So please, before you come in, why I understand this part of the story that the industry will go and seek. The industry is about to make money. The average person that owns a company would source from India, source from Lebanon, source around the world for professionals. Those ones already have the skill. Right. Where the government is supposed to come in is to know that if you are coming to set up a bank or an hospital in Nigeria or a diagnostic center in Nigeria, you have to have a framework with 2 or 3 universities that will feed your company compulsorily as a policy. So you cannot now say, I did not find any graduates in.
That's the government's part to ensure that policy insists that the Dangote, for example, engages.
Again, government allows companies donate writing and training materials to universities in exchange for tax waivers. Every Nigerian knows that. You see it within universities, centers donated by certain establishments. How do you think that they're not doing it enough?
Okay, so let me explain something. So I think actually what Mario said is very true, but I think it's actually too high. Dangote is too big. Let me give you a typical basic example. The average university by default of its setup, and its positioning, attracts SMEs. I'm not talking about big companies. For me, they are too rich. They don't care about universities. But the average university has a minimum of 100 SMEs within and around it. These SMEs feel that the universities are too high for them. But the problem is this. SMEs are the ones who actually have the biggest problems. They can't afford to pay extra for this. They want to think about doing research to increase their productivity. They're thinking about how can they spend money. Now imagine an arrangement where a university gets all the SMEs in and around it and say, well, what problems have you got? Collect it into different scenarios. Then advertise those simple problems as master's degree dissertation, as first degree dissertation. So students are doing actual research that a company is waiting for the result. What you're doing is that you are creating the framework where a student begins to develop great employability skills while it's in university. He's walking down the street, he feels like a student consultant because that company cannot do without him.
So pause for a second. So for example, I work in a TV station. So one of our major issues is information. We need to know how many people are watching us per time. Beautiful. We need to know, we need that data. What we have right now is a very manual data. So are you telling me that if my company, for example, now goes to a university and say, you know what, I need somebody who can get me data, who is watching your view per time?
Absolutely.
You now train young people to study that project as to what you can do to solve that problem.
Yes.
And then once that child can solve that problem at the end of his term, and then engage him because he has solved my problem.
You can even employ him if the person is good enough. And for this, it's another dimension to it. Because of the availability of these SMEs all around universities, it doesn't make sense to me that a student would finish 4 years in the university who is the biggest employer of labor and doesn't have work experience. Where within and around you, there are many SMEs looking for some kind of support, even if on a volunteer service.
Gotcha. Let me take this call from Just. Morning, are you there? From Just University, I think Plateau State University?
Yes,
Uni Just, thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, ladies.
Morning.
And morning to the guests. All right.
Go ahead.
I really appreciate this topic, and I have interest in it. Are you hearing me?
Listen, you have to talk to me directly. You can't talk to the TV.
All right.
So sorry.
I wanted to go to curriculum.
Before we go there, I realize that we can decide to spend time talking about what the government should do.
What about
But we also know that this government hasn't been as responsive as we want them to be. And we have millions of graduates who have certificates and have no job and don't know what to do. And we have another set of people that JAMB has even reduced the cutoff mark to get into school.
100.
They are getting into school and they have no idea what they can do. Can we break it down in what the individual can do based on what they have to make sure that they are employable regardless of whatever the government is doing?
Okay, so I think I take it in maybe 2 or 3 levels. The first thing is this: the average graduate who finished from University of Benin and lives in Lagos, for some strange reason, only seems to apply for jobs in Lagos or maybe around Lagos. Now, because so the point is this: when you restrict your space, you restrict your place. Now, West Africa, it's got 16 countries, okay? Imagine a graduate on finishing school understands that, wait a minute, I can send my CV to Cameroon. I can send my CV automatically by switching your perception of place and space and relevance. You've automatically increased your space. Africa is 1 billion people, 54 countries. Why would you just leave university and you think, well, you only have to do a job in a particular location, especially when you don't have any job in the first place? That's the first thing. Increase your outlook. It's a global village. How many people actually have Facebook friends, over 500 Facebook friends? And if you ask them, how many of those ones you actually have actual conversations with? They will talk about the next designer shoot, but they will never talk about what they actually do or finish in school. So understand the basis of networking in a global space. There are people who are looking for your service. I see, if you go to my LinkedIn page, I spent 2 months cooking the page. Because that is my physical representation to the outside world.
My gown is dead. Let me take this to Alfred. Alfred, are you there? Oh, I'm so sorry. Now some Unilag. We really need people to call him from universities.
I wanted to, because in Nigeria, you want to look for a job, and the first thing they ask you is, what experience do you have, even when you're just graduating from school? Now you're talking about employability. How can you get graduates to start building experience even before they leave school?
That's a very easy one, actually. In fact, I think for me, it's probably the fundamental flaw I find many times. Now, I did an experiment. This is actually a live experiment. I ranked 5 universities in different African countries. I got 2 different students engaged, and it was a simple exercise. Write a cover letter for yourself, get the reference from a supervisor, go to any of the SMEs around you and tell them, I'm a student here, I'm a good student, look at my reference. Can I work with you for 2 hours a week? Don't pay me. Now, bear in mind, 2 hours is 1 movie. less that week. So actually, it's nothing. Now, you do that work, you go there, you actually put some service by volunteering. You add it to your CV. Interestingly, in most CVs, you will never see a CV ask you how many hours did you work. It just tells you you work from January to December. Secondly, CVs don't actually quote how much you were paid for the job. The interest of an employer is your capacity, your competence, your capability to deliver the job based on the skills you've acquired. So there are a range of ways you can pick up skills. If you look at average university, the amount of events happening in universities is outstanding. Can you go to the event organizer? Hey, brother, sister, can I help plan your event? You're developing event management skills, computer skills. Add it to your CV. There are experiences on the go.
I have a call from Turkey. Morning, are you there?
Hello, morning, I'm there.
Go ahead, please.
Hello?
You're live. Go ahead, please, Faid.
Oh, yeah. No, the topic is very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm a graduate. So to me, I think we need a societal reform in order to get this employability problem, in order to get it right. Currently, I'm in Istanbul. I think an average Nigerian student graduate, when he has graduated, everything is solved. He must get employment. That is not in a developing country like ours. That shouldn't be the mindset.
Thank you very much.
To be to get educated.
When I'm listening to you, I'm sort of confused again about the issues of flexibility of employment. Now, a person who studies law can actually work in media like I do, based on what they call graduate training courses that employers are supposed to provide. So you that you're willing to unlearn and relearn certain things can actually get employment. But you're saying train yourself, prepare yourself for, you know, how do you balance that?
Okay, so there are two things here. If you ask the average class, except for professional courses like medicine, accounting, where the people that go there because they want to. For the other programs like biology and chemistry, most of the folks that are, either zoology, by the way, most of the folks that go there don't want to be there. See, but if you ask the average person, everybody, there is something everybody is clear about, is their interest, irrespective of what you're doing. That one is clear to you. You know what you like. So when you go and do, after you finished work, you can be a chemist, but you go home, you are designing clothing lines. Now, imagine a scenario where you are able to develop both on the go at university. Your main course of study, but also your interest. And I've checked this. There is no policy that restricts you from sitting in another class in a university as long as you don't do the examination. So my point is, if you're doing zoology and you love business, it's something you have a knack and love for. Even though you're in zoology, you are able to sit in a management class just for the purpose of gaining experience. A university environment actually allows it. So it means when you're finishing university, you actually have your main course of study, but also you spend time developing your interest.
Let me take this call from Alfred. Alfred, are you there?
Yes, I'm there, please.
Thanks for calling. Go ahead, please.
Yes, I really want to appreciate you for this program. I think we have a fundamental issue in the country, Nigeria. Picking on Dr. Akanimo, you can understand over there in the United Kingdom that an average teenager is having an attachment with almost one or two companies that without even having any fund, that company will pick such a child up and train in the university. With the result of why that child finished university is returning back into any of those companies to serve them and to solve their problem. You know, we have the key apparatus to kickstart this in Nigeria, which is the IT. But the parameter to make this function is not really working. You discover that an IT student is just going to a company to just go and while away here, returning back with nothing. You solve no problem. No, it's a national issue. It's a national problem.
Thank you very much, Alfred.
Sometimes ago, we discussed on this issue. You see,
Thank you very much, Alfred. We have to go on a break. When we come back, we'll continue this conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So there are lots of young people out there, Doctor, that they want to blow. Honestly,
Like
they
me.
don't want to speak too much English. They just they want to leave school and just have this fantastic thing. They have an official car from day one. You know, have this lovely pay, and that's what they're looking at. And when you tell a young person they have to you have to train me for a specific industry, it's just too much work. How feasible is this? Is this really the way to go?
So I think it's a very, very good question, actually. So, and there are a few sectors that are that are fantastic. I mean, record shows that agriculture, for example, has got a capacity. I think it's actually the biggest potential expanding sector, more than others by about 4 times. Capacity for 17 million jobs in Africa by 2030. Wow. See, but the point is, like you know, the average Nigerian university has got a faculty of agriculture, but it's very strange that even with that space, and even with the government wanting to divert to agriculture, less than 5% of agricultural graduates do anything agricultural. A fundamental flaw. If you pick up your mobile phone, and I've tried it many times, and look at the number of apps you have, mine is 96, then look further and find out how many apps has been developed by a Nigerian for Nigeria. You will be shocked it's less than 2%. Okay? Now, in an environment where there's problems on every side, in the UK, I'm going to sit in meetings and they're trying to have a discussion around maybe solving a new problem. Somebody will say, okay, this is a problem. Someone will say, no, somebody has solved it. Then someone will say, okay, over another problem. Oh, it's already solved. In Africa, we are blessed with problems. Literally, you wake up in the morning and problem slaps you in the face. It means, therefore, that Africa with the biggest number of problems is the continent with the biggest number of opportunities.
Okay, let me take this call from Zamfara. Adegbenga, are you there? Hello, are you there?
Yeah, I'm still there.
Go ahead, please. You're live. You're live, Adegbenga. Go ahead, please.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
We can hear you.
Yeah, thank you for your view.
Yeah.
I'm happy to talk to you. This is my first time of talking.
Welcome.
I'm coming from Zamfara State. Yeah, doctor, I really appreciate what you're saying. But the basic thing is, thank you. The basic thing is about I'm in a polytechnic sector. And what we do there is, as per the curriculum, it's supposed to be 60-40. That's 60% for practical and 40% for theoretical. And these are our students supposed to know how to do things with their hands. That's the basic establishment of the polytechnic. But nowadays, the funding is not there. Whereabouts we do alternative to practical, in which we do 40% practical and 60% theoretical. Now, what I want to contribute is that we really need the curriculum to be upgraded.
Yes.
We have been using a curriculum that has been set up more than 10 years. We need the curriculum to be upgraded to fit into the future of Nigerian context. And secondly, we need the companies to come in and look inward into what the polytechnics are doing. Like our students are going for IT after their ND. That IT can be a voluntary, as the doctor has said. And our ND students, at 4 months, they have 4 months industrial attachment. That can be a kind of voluntary, which can be impacted into their CV to make them employable and get that skill they needed. And thirdly, the government needs to come in. When they fund this university and this polytechnic, they should be able to bring out the productivity. And
thank you very much, Alfred. Let me come to you.
I'm one of those that really like to blame the government and ask all the government accountable. And I believe that there are a lot of things they can do that will help. But we have Dr. Akan, and I feel that for now, let's focus on what individuals can do. So somebody called and was saying that, those that do IT go and make coffee, they go and make tea, they don't get anything. The system doesn't work if you don't work it.
That's true.
There are people that have gone to do IT and they've been able to secure their jobs from doing IT. And we have testimonies right here within TVC of people that have gotten employment after coming to do their IT here consistently. But I want to ask you, still within the place of writing CV, how can you better expatiate on your experiences? And I would like to just quickly break that down. A friend of mine wrote that she was the custodian of the NYSC store for their fellowship. and she was also the finance person in the fellowship, and she just wrote it down as a one line. I said, no, it's not a one line. When you're considered in an NYSC store, it means that you know how to deal with unruly people when they come to buy. You understood how to manage finances because you were dealing with small money and you grew the business. You understood inventory. You understood. So she was not saying, I could have written it down like that. So
she didn't
break down how we can expand our experiences beyond a one line.
So basically, a CV is a representation of your capacity. So it's you telling a story to a potential employer or a potential client or partner, as the case may be. So it means, therefore, that you have to be able to capture it such that it's able to express the fact that you can do the job you say you can. Now, see, it's bad not to have skills. It's worse not to know that you actually need skills. It's even worse if you actually have it, I don't even know that you do. Because I'll give you an example. You know, I've refused so many CVs. And many people like run big fellowships on campus as church. And they will never even mention it in their CV. And I can't understand, for the love of me, the rationale. You know what the skills you require to run a fellowship?
Well, CVs are supposed to be written to address a particular target employment.
Absolutely.
So I studied art business and I never wrote it in my CV to get here. I wrote the ones on leadership that I thought was, I think CV should be...
So CV should be streamlined to meet what you're supposed to be doing. But my point is the fact that actually you have to be able to represent what are the skills you picked up. So for example, this date to this date, I did this and that. Then below it, I picked up this skill, that skill, that skill. That's actually how you should represent it.
Let me take this call from Pat. Pat, are you there? Oh, sorry for keeping you.
Okay, so I was watching one of your clips on Facebook where you were talking about the 3 career routes.
That's right.
The employment, enterprise, and education.
That's right.
And listening to that video, I felt terrible that I didn't have this opportunity to hear this while I was still in school. So can you quickly just give us an overview of that? Because every graduate, every student needs to know their options.
Okay, from your first year, in fact, I think as a matter of fact, you should actually begin from secondary school level. There are potentially basically 3 E-routes, as described in my book. And the first E-route is employment. It's like you finish your studies and work for somebody. Second E-route is enterprise. You finish your studies and set up your own company. And the third E-route is education. It's further education for those who like book like me. So, but the point is, I remember I was in session and somebody said, well, wait a minute, Doc, what about if I have so much money? I don't want any of this 3 and I am loaded. I said, well, let's add the 4th E-route, entitlement. Then if you are maybe marital or, okay, let's add engagement. But I think ultimately the truth is this. If you knew to develop 3 E-routes when you're in your year 1, it means you are consciously thinking about, if, for example, I can't get employment, what is the enterprise I might do? Now, the trouble is this. Most people never think about this until they finish school and they get their first job. They work for 5 years and discover, oh, my goodness, my boss is rubbish, my boss is awful, or you lose your job. Then for the first time ever, you think about enterprise. But now you're under pressure. Or imagine, so people actually finish school and they already know they want to do a particular job or set up their own company, which is fine. They go and set up their own company. You know how difficult it is to manage a new company. After 2 years, there's no cash coming through. And now they're stuck, and they go, now I need to get a job. But it's the wrong time to be thinking about employment. You're supposed to think about this E-routes from the very beginning.
We're going to break very soon, but I just want to, because there's a money bag listening to you. There's a rich man thinking of going to his university to buy a library, build a library, thinking of what he can do.
Doctorate.
And what you're telling us now that money bag is saying, you know what, create an industry. Maybe agriculture, as you said, it's going to be 4 times in the next year, like 2020. Create an industry around agriculture. Begin to partner with universities, see what we can do to get experts who are going to work in this industry. Because that's what we need. And get the federal government also to make policies to ensure
that it runs smoothly.
That it runs smoothly and it's Nigerians that actually run that company. That's an interesting perspective. Let's go on a break. When we come back, we'll open our phone lines to take more calls and read some tweets. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. Actually, we wanted to change our topic, but it seems as if our viewers really want to stay on this. So let's take a few tweets.
Okay, Ibrahim here says, career nowadays are interdisciplinary and cross-curricular. Therefore, students should be encouraged to include their experiences within and outside their career of choice in their CVs. The future of career is inter-collaboration of skills. Adebayo says, most graduates in Nigeria are not equipped to progress into employment. They lack the qualities and the persona to actually make a positive impression because they are a product of a defective educational system.
So Ibrahim says, no, Dangote should not be too big to pay something back to the country that enabled its growth. I think companies, big or small, should encourage indigenous technology and problem-solving skills. And Ayodeji says, I hope Mr. Akanimo knows that sometimes the frequency of lectures and their timing would not allow for any other extracurricular activities like working for some few hours a week. The kind we got here isn't that palatable. That's Nigeria University, like I mentioned behind the scene.
Take this two tweets. Obisoya Adamilola says, I remember when I did my IT at LTV8, the orgas were just sending me to buy amala up and down. Ibrahim now did a rejoinder that making tea or coffee for your mentor or your superior at work is not a problem. They do it all over the world. What's important is that you do what you do alongside and your real focus during the placement.
Right. Okay, so we need to, okay, I have a call actually. Dumebi from Ogudu. Are you still there?
Yeah, Dumebi is there.
Go ahead, please.
All right, thank you. I would really like to say that part of the problem, I think, is that we have not really given so much attention to education. Because if you look at this, it is something we need to take from the primary school level to secondary school level, then university. It is only when we have our graduates that we discuss education, or when they get to university gates and they say, okay, the cost of point is 250 or what it is, that we get interested to discuss education. But it is something that should really start from primary to secondary to university level. Now, if I ask all of us here, all of us attended primary school, attended secondary school, attended university, then we served the National Youth Service Corps, then we got into the world of looking for a job. It has been the same thing all through the years, all through the decades. Can't we look at it again and say, how can we restructure this and change it so that we don't travel the same route all the time? It is the same route all the time, but if something drastic is not done, I don't think anything will change.
Right, thank you very much,
this for ages.
I want us to move away from the government. See, we all know the government is a problem. In fact, a 2-year-old knows that. So let's not even go into what the government is doing or not doing. We are very clear. What we want to focus on is what can you individuals do, and what can those who want to go and start building libraries? Because you said that there are problems. There's problems everywhere. Our tomatoes are destroyed.
That's the project.
When they come to the
even if they not,
how can we
get the
preserve
seeds?
They just pineapples, fruits. There's so many things we can do with
what can we
agriculture.
do?
There's so many. The value chain is huge.
It's massive.
So there are problems to be solved, and people are there donating libraries. They are there doing things that are totally unnecessary because you want to get an honorary degree. We can actually create industries and manufacturing companies that can actually engage our students.
Absolutely. I think as a matter of fact, if you look at it even critically, Nigeria survives because of its SME leverage. Over 90% of businesses in Nigeria are SMEs. Over 80% of jobs in Nigeria are created by SMEs. But because of our population, it is not enough. The numbers of graduates who are just looking for work is too much compared to the potential to actually be the creator of work.
And but does your format solve the problem? Does it really?
When I read the book,
well,
it solves the problem.
It will do in so many levels.
So at what point will it? Because we were talking behind the scene now, you were discussing CV writing. And I mentioned that from a young age, I'd been exposed to business. And I cannot put that establishment, it's not grandiose enough. It's not what will I call my Eleros company that I will put in my CV. Now, it's not about me not being brave enough to put it in the CV. It's about the person that will be reading the CV and be thinking, Elero,
you don't need to write the company. Write what you learned from it.
Hold on a minute. The basis for the training, wherever you got it, should be it should be written. Right. Someone should be able to appreciate the time and effort.
How do you put it? Ajayi, are you still there?
I'm here.
Good morning. Go ahead, please.
I want to thank you for this topic this morning. Right. There are three fundamental issues that we are not dealing with in Nigeria. One, we need to go back to our foundation. What happened to all our technical schools? There are no more technical schools, and you want to improve the skills in the students. Before, when I was in JSS3, I know everything about woodwork, solar technology, where I teach today. Let us bring back old things. Let's modernize it. The second thing is what happened to the funding? The jumbo salary are given all these politicians. Divert into education. Let us improve our institutions. Thirdly, let us have specialized institutions Specialized institutions will bail us out of this mess. God bless you.
Thank you very much. I'd like you to address Nima's question of
Okay,
no matter how we are humble.
So the first point is this. Because of so much competition, you are, no matter if LA Road Limited, you are better than somebody with no work experience at all. The thing about skills, an employer is conscious of money and time, and money converts to can you do the job. You see, now a CV gets you in the door. Now, if you actually express that, and in so many levels, if you can express that in a way where he knows, well, let me give you a chance, but at least it gets you in the door, you can show yourself. But my point is, no skill is wasted. No experience is too small to be represented in your CV.
I hope you're informing the employers now.
Absolutely.
The person reading that CV, that HR company, saying, what kind of CV is this? Don't
They are not ready.
And going back to the caller, just kind of, this is very important. Here is a very vital point. You know, I was talking about those pathways where my daughter is 10. I can tell what she's supposed to be doing. I will be a wicked father if I now ask her to go and read medicine. At 7 years old, she's drawing amazingly. She designed the cover of my book. So there's something about your personality in your DNA, in what you are good at without stress. Now, imagine you're able to allow people to tread in those directions. Like you said, from junior level. Vocation in developed economies is a big deal. If I call a plumber to my house to come and fix my plumb, I'm literally watching the time because every hour I spending, I'm paying ridiculous money. That is because they've been able to professionalize vocation. The woodwork guy, the carpenter guy is look at the zero guy. You as a professor, can you do carpenting? You can do carpentry. And so everybody living in their space are professionals in their own right. And it's a shame that the technical institute or system in Nigeria has been eroded. The average polytechnic graduate is now a second-class citizen in an environment where we have so much skills.
So now bringing back what the government should do.
Yes,
absolutely.
Let's even go back to us as individuals and graduates in school. Reading your book, there's a part where you talked about building a network of career enhancers.
That's right.
And now I look at the young people and the way they pick their friends and people that, you know, they allow to surround them. And I don't see them looking into the future. They are not deliberate about picking it. Okay. Now, how do you, as a graduate, I wasn't in that position because I picked a friend, I picked all my friends as successful in their sphere. There was something that connected us. I didn't know what that was at that time. So how do you, as an undergraduate, pick people that you work with that will help you tomorrow?
Now, that's a very good question you ask. See, your network and your legwork brings your success. It's your net worth. See, now ultimately, you have to be deliberate in your networking. My friends call me a chronic networker. And why is that so? Because I wake up in the morning and I know this month I need to have a specific friend in a specific country for a specific reason. Now, as it so happens, the internet is so good that gives you a basis to be able to contact people. Now, interestingly, people are great at writing letters and emails and love letters, but they are hopeless and rubbish at writing important letters for connection. I was asking a question earlier. How many Facebook friends do you have? How many LinkedIn friends do you have? Do you know who does what? Or you just wake up in the morning and accept them?
Hey,
if I go for a meeting, and in the conference, I know most people will go and maybe want to get the phone number of the guest speaker. I never go there because they're always busy. I'm looking for somebody in that room who is in a particular country I haven't conquered yet, because I'm not wasting my time. Everybody has to rely on networking and collaborations to succeed.
All right, I'll come back to networking because I'm very bad at that. Let me take this call. Yakub, are you still there?
Yeah, Morayo, I'm there. Good morning.
Go ahead,
morning.
And then good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Morayo, to buttress the point of last caller, it is only this country has ever seen a graduate of the university. For example, somebody that went to university to study mechanical engineering, and then there's no workshop for him to be practicing what he taught in the class. And then after the person graduated from the university, and then he went to the labor market, it is going to be a difficult for the person to be able to get employed in the labor market. I'll give you a quick example. I have two brothers. One of them went to university studying mechanical engineering. The other one go to roadside mechanic to learn this very particular mechanic. Do you know, Morayo, when this guy wants to get a job in Dangote, he needs to come back to the other senior brother of mine to come and learn the same mechanic that he went to university to get to one. See, Morayo, we are in deep problem in this country. The only thing that can solve our problem is that The curriculum of our education needs to be upgraded.
Yes.
The ones that are already moving beyond all those things that we are into. Thank you, God bless you.
Please, before we go into networking, I wanted to ask you, because I read your book and you wrote about thinking outside the box.
That's right.
Learning outside the box.
That's right.
Cross-learning across multiple fields. So maybe
That's
you
right.
did biochemistry, but then, or pharmacy, and then you go and study international law.
That's right.
It adds to a dynamism to what you
You're
can
doing.
do.
That's true.
So you can now work as a legal advisor
That's correct.
in pharmaceutical industry.
Absolutely.
But we're not thinking like, well, we're just thinking I'm boxed, I've already done zoology, I'm stuck here. We're
Go
not
to the
thinking
zoo.
of all the other ways we can interlearn
Yes.
and all of that. Can you break down
In
other
fact, I
options?
think that because of our peculiarity, we should be mandatory for every student to take a course in separate faculty. So if you're a science student, you must take a course in management. In today's era, the trouble is there is no isolation in your professionalism. No employer wants to care if you read zoology. Can you write a business plan? I want to get money right now. You cannot then get out.
No, the training should be for the lecturers.
That's my point.
I'm seeing this and I'm wondering, wait, as a law student, you have to take a language course.
I agree with
it's
you.
It's because you will be able to cross and apply and work in any African
agree with
country.
you.
But the lecturers will frustrate you.
I agree with you. But the point is, if the lecturers are not trained, would you now sit back and say, but I'm not going to... So I'm talking about taking your own life in your hands.
So for example, now I have like 15 years experience in media, and I just recently design. Are you saying that I can go and take a course to start maybe consulting, other media?
Interestingly, the internet is so good. I don't know why people don't actually look for important things.
They don't.
There are the availability of free online courses to help you in any field.
We've done several.
Future Learn, Coursera, these are online platforms where some rich guy has so much money and prepares some professors to cook a lot of courses, make it free for everybody. Under your beck and call. You hold mobile phones, you buy data, you spend it doing funny things. When you can be developed, I'm talking about grabbing your career bull by the horn. Bam! It's your life ultimately.
I need a session with you.
Bam!
Okay, so I have the call from Owo. Morning, sir. Are you there?
Yes, good morning. Hello, good morning.
You're live. Go ahead.
All right, my name is Ade. I'm calling from Owo. I've been trying to get on this program for like forever.
Okay.
So this is my first time of coming on.
Welcome to the show.
Yes. Mariah, well done. Good job. God bless you. And the rest of you too. Your subject matter makes me want to share an experience I had. I think that the matter of experience for the students in the higher institutions can be addressed in another way. There are a lot of people in the industry, okay, who have probably reached, an age where you could say they want to retire or something. Government could bring them in and use them for the purpose of giving these people the so-called industry experience that.
Oh, sorry, I'm finding it difficult. I wanted to go into this issue. Okay, actually, I have to go on commercial. When I come back, we'll go to the issue of networking. Because some people don't handle rejection very well. You go somewhere, you feel like, hi, good afternoon, sir. I do, and they just, I better go back with my phone. And people don't handle that very well. So they go back into their small shell and just keep quiet. So how do we bust out of that shell and know how to use the network? Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back. Welcome back to Your View.
Thanks for staying with us. So before we go on break, I want to talk about networking because we see a lot of people go back coiling into their shell when they go try to go and see somebody who they feel is influential and try to ask for favors or ask for some kind of direction, and they're rejected. How can somebody use their network to get to build their net worth?
Okay, so interestingly, network has to be from different levels. Now, there are different people with different levels of influences, and you approach levels of influences differently. You see, fundamentally, there are individuals who are great and fantastic and will help your career. The first mistake most people looking for a network do is the fact that they go to ask. Flip it over and go to give. There's a better response.
Oh!
If somebody sent me an email and said, Dr. Odon, I discover you've been traveling all over, you must be tired. Again, and this is actually a life example. I was in University of Benin, that was last month, for my book homecoming, like a first launch. And at the end of my 2-hour session with over 800 students at University of Benin because of the book, a young man, I'll call his name on air if I may, can I? Livingston is his name. He walks up to me and said, Dr. Odon, I've been checking out your pages. You don't have any Wikipedia page. I'm saying that's true actually. He said, can I help you put one together? And I said, okay. Within 2 days, he sent me the link of the Wikipedia page. I will use that guy, give him a job, promote him as long as I live.
That's the way.
It's about understanding what that individual is and what do they lack you can give as a basis of connection.
Let me take this call and come to Nima. Hello, are you there? We lost that call. Go ahead, Nima.
So there's a tweet, 2 tweets actually. Ni Bello says, I operate an SME. An experience is if they come, it's all about the money for a lot, even when they have not done or shown to have learned or contributed to anything. That's one. Then Billy Kiss Mafia, this one worries me. My party for Twitter. Mediocrity is also a problem. There are people with certificates who aren't grounded in their qualifications. How would they perform if employed? We need competent employees and visionaries to look into the future.
I'll make it simpler. Tokwe has a company, makeup. Now, let me ask you, Tokwe, what's your #1 problem? What's that thing that you're willing to even half your own salary, your current level, that you're willing to engage somebody for? What's that problem you have that you can engage somebody for that you're willing to pay for?
Oh, okay. Definitely want to understand the trends of makeup. I want to know how much is in that industry right now and who are the top 3 actual players, because I know many people are, yes, and I want to understand what they are doing that has worked for them to become the top 3, because I know that look like top 3, but they're not making the money of top 3. So where is the money in makeup?
So
where is it going
the young graduate right now who loves makeup in the university and find information and go and search, let me go and
you become general manager.
You now come to talk about I have this information. You can
if you come for an interview and you tell me these are the top 3 players, this is the top 3 things they do, this is what I'll help you do, you are employed.
You are immediately. It's about value, it's about research.
That's a practical
expertise. But people just say, the world we live in, there are too many competition. There are too many people looking for one pot. You need to differentiate yourself. Like literally, from the first point you walk into a room, your first conversation, everything has to be different. Why are you doing differently? See, the point is, I break leverage on networks into 3 levels. Academic networks, industry networks, NGO network. The average person wants to affiliate themselves with their best friends, if they're in the same faculty. But ultimately, that person is already your friend. That's fine, you are covered. Look for somebody who, after school, will actually influence your life. And I mean, I think it's a step further. I was addressing a selection of international students back in the UK. These are international and African students in the UK. And I asked, well, in Lancaster University, how many of you have got networks of different individuals? And there were very few, and I was in shock. Because every UK university, for example, advertises themselves by the numbers of international students that they actually recruit. Right. That means you are working in a campus with over 100 nationals, and you finish your master's degree and not have access.
And your friend is only Nigerian.
Nigerian. What are you doing with your life in a global era? And if you break it even further, you discover, as a matter of fact, that the average African who studies in the UK is broken into 3 categories. It's either the parents is very loaded and rich enough to come to the UK, or this guy has got a beautiful scholarship, or he's a hustler. If you look at these 3 dimensions, if the person is loaded, that means you're potentially walking past the CEO of an oil and gas firm in Tanzania, and you're doing oil and gas engineering, and you haven't struck a deal. But you never connect because he's not your friend. You have to open your eyes and literally, I tell you, I used to walk up to people and say, how are you? I was fine. Who is your father? I want to know, because I'm potentially working and I'm
hustling. That happened to me in the event. I went to school. My sister-in-law's brother was engaged to the daughter of the Chief Justice in Tanzania. Is it Tanzania? One of these Southeast. Really,
and you never know. Why won't you know?
Until she moved back to her country, and
and that's how I lost it.
And I see her every single day. Imagine if I had made that connection. I never really had that conversation with her.
It actually operates in different circles. I was addressing a class of over 30 proprietors in Abuja just yesterday. And I asked a simple question. I said, you do PTA meetings? They say, yes, do. I said, how many of you proprietors know the jobs your parents do? And they were looking at me and said, that is actually for me a very important information. Because if the parent is the CEO of a big company, if somebody is paying 200,000 pounds or naira for term time in a secondary or primary school, the person can potentially pay a lot more if you offer him something else. You need to be able to understand by priority the relevance of your stakeholders. It's good to come to a PTA meeting and speak a lot of grammar and argue lots of argument, but find out who are your partners in that room.
Thank you.
This is.
So let me close it with this tweet.
Yeah, okay, you have it.
Fakon Dayodeji says, I learned digital marketing online and it's free from Google. All thanks to Moments with Brain for the efforts. We can't keep blaming government. We are all aware it's faulty. Take your life by yourself. You are responsible
What
for
me I
it.
have learned from you is that, yes, I have a lot of experience that I've not been able to articulate properly.
Absolutely.
I need to put it down together and then solve somebody's problem.
That's correct.
My millions will come.
Value.
I don't hear.
Value.
Let's go on a break. When we come back,
Are we coming back? Well, doesn't want it to end.
They
They don't want you to go.